Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. How's everybody doing? I am here this afternoon. I thought I'd come on and discuss a little bit about the practice question that I posted in the group early this morning. I posted this same question in 4 different groups, and quite a few people responded to the question, and the answer responses were pretty scattered all over the place. So it seemed like a good question to discuss a little bit more in detail and try to get some understanding or clarity on where everyone's thinking was, and hopefully I can point out a thing or two that may be helpful. Um, just trying to buy a little bit of time and give some folks time to check in. If you guys want to join in, that's great. If not, you can always catch this on the rebroadcast and watch it, in the privacy of your own time. Um, so I wish this was a forum where I can actually talk back to you guys, where I can hear you and you can't only hear me. But if you're watching or listening or whatever and you can hear me, just type yes, you can hear me in the comment section, and that way I know I'm good. And that way, um, I'll know that even after recording, that folks can go back and listen to it. Okay. I'm gonna just type this in a section. If you can hear me, type yes or hello. Okay. All right. I see a few people joining in, so that's great. And I'll get started in just a little bit. But one thing I want to kind of caution you guys with, or if I can share with you, I want to caution you with just diving right in and reading a practice question or a test question as soon as you see it. Because sometimes what happens is we'll just dive right in and just start reading, and because of that, we miss some pertinent information. We miss some really good information. So we kind of just jump right in, just start reading, then just go to the answer responses. And in our head, like, okay, I got this. I know what this is. Um, One of the things that you need to be careful of is reading through the situations too fast, making pre-assumptions, or adding information or taking away information that's just not there. A lot of times our own practice experience gets in the way, or our years of experience in the field or lack thereof. So, having that balance of understanding that this is not about our individual experiences in the field. Rather, this is a standardized exam. And so, being that it's standardized, the questions are written and designed in a way to purposely have us all thinking in the same manner, and is generalized. So you have to understand that too. And I know sometimes we want to say, well, that doesn't make sense because I would need this and I would need that. You got to also keep in mind that these are practice questions. We have a short period of time to be able to read and answer. So they have to write these in such a way that it's very concise. So that's why, it's important to be able to take your time and read, because there's a lot of information packed into a small vignette, and it's very concise. So word choice matter. And if we're not paying attention to the word choice, then we can pretty much miss the significance of the vignette that's given to us or that's in front of us. So that's a tidbit that I want to share with you, that the words matter. It's important how you read the question. It's important to not just dive in there and try to fast read or skim through. And it's important to not look for the gist of the vignette, but you need to understand what's going on. So with all that being said, I shared a lot in that. Hopefully that was a helpful tidbit that I gave you, that you'll be able to use as you move forward in reading your questions and preparing to study. Okay. So what was interesting about this question and why I chose it is because in my mind, this was not an analytical type question, but it was more of a recall type question. And I say recall because this question, once you read it and really take time to kind of see what's being asked of you, you'll see that this is a situation that's dealing with case managing a case. All right, helping helping a client, um, deal with a situation that she's going through. So let's read this. Let's read this vignette and let's see what's going on here. A social worker is conducting an assessment with a young mother. The social worker learns that the client has been living off and on with her parents and that she holds down a part-time job. Should the social worker ask directly about how much the client earns at her job? A. Yes, because in view of the link between poverty and mental illness, it is important for the social worker to know the client's economic situation and possible eligibility for benefits. B. No, it is unnecessary to ask how much the client earns, as this may seem to be too intrusive to the client. C. Yes, because a client's economic status and ability to save money can tell the social worker a lot about the client's judgment and impulse control. Or D. Yes, because a client's ability to recall annual income can help establish whether the client has any memory or recall problems. Well, that's a lot, and there's a lot going on here. And essentially, if you take a look at the vignette in the beginning of this situation and see what's being asked of you with the last sentence, there's some really good things to pay attention to. So let's go back to the beginning. After we read through, we have a social worker who is conducting an assessment with a young mother. That right there, conducting an assessment with a young mother, suggests something to me. That word assessment, conducting an assessment, lets me know that this is an early phase of treatment. So we're probably in the beginning phases of treatment. And it says a young mother. So we can assume that she's probably in her early 20s, mid 20s, or something like that. But she's young. She's not a teenage mom, but she's a young mother. So a social worker is conducting an assessment with a young mother. What do we know about assessments? When we're doing assessments, it's important in an assessment to gather data, as much information as possible, right? Why do we do that in the assessment process? We do that because it's important. Um, that part is it's important in understanding what the situation is, right, and what the problem is, and what we need to address, right? So when a client comes to you and they're sharing information, in that assessment phase, as they're talking to you, you're gathering that data, you're gathering that information, you're trying to understand what's going on, you're assessing the problem, you're gaining an understanding of the situation. So you are hearing this young mother and trying to understand what's going on with her. What is the need? What is the problem? What's the situation? So what's the need? What's the problem? And what's the situation? The social worker learns, okay? So I ask myself, what's the need? What's the problem? What's the situation? Here we go. The social worker learns that the client has been living off and on with her parents and that she holds down a part-time job. All right, so the situation here, so we know something. We got some bit of information. And that bit of information that we got is that we're learning that um, this young mother actually lives off and on with her parents and that she does have a part-time job. So that means something. All right. So for me, that's the problem. That's the situation. So we already know that we're dealing with a young mother. We know that she lives off and on with her parents and she has a part-time job. Right. All right. So she has a social worker. The social worker is doing an assessment. She's doing an assessment for some reason. So she needs to figure out what's going on here. We do know that she lives off and on with her parents. And so we got a bit of information. So let's step further for a bit of clarity and understanding and get some more information. So with that being said, the last sentence is asking us, should, okay? Should the social worker ask directly? Oops, I didn't mean to undo that. So should the social worker ask directly about how much the client earns at her job? I think a lot of people have problems with this word directly. And from some of the discussion and from the response that I've gotten, I see that most people had a problem with that question because the word directly made it feel like it's being too intrusive. Well, okay. I can get in some situations you may find that, asking certain questions may be too intrusive, but we're in the beginning phase of treatment. We're doing an assessment. We have a young mother in front of us in our office, or we're in her home. I don't know, because it doesn't really say where this assessment is taking place. So whether it's in a home, whether it's in your office, whether it's in a community setting, you're doing a situation and you're learning that you have a young mother who's living half time with her moms and half time without, on and off with her parents, in and out of their home. And she does have a part-time job. So, there's an inference that could be made here that there's some kind of financial struggle that may be leading to this situation, but we don't know. So I said an inference. All right. So with that being said, because we don't know, we don't want to assume, and we want to be really careful, let's look at the answer choices and let's select the best, not the correct, the best of the four. What's the best answer choice here? So, what do we know about case managing? What do we know about doing assessments? What do we know about taking in data and information? What are we supposed to do with that information? You gather that information, you take in that information so that you can better assess the need. And being able to assess the need, you can identify appropriate goals and do good treatment planning. With that treatment planning and goal formulation, you can implement the appropriate strategy and tools to help this client work through their situation, and then you can continue to move through the process. But assessing the case, understanding what's going on, is where we're at right now. And we're assessing and we're gathering so that we can better learn how to manage this case. Okay, so this for me was a recall question on what I understand about case management. All right. I have a young mother. She's living off and on with her parents, and she has a part time job. Should I ask her directly about how much she earns on her job? Yes, because in view of the link between poverty and mental illness, it's important for the social worker to know the client's economic situation and possible eligibility for benefits. So that to me sounds like a great answer. However, I don't want to just stop there. I don't want to just jump to the answer. I want to read through all of the answer choices to make sure that I'm selecting the best one. But right now, A is sounding plausible to me. It's sounding really good, so I'm going to stick with that. And then I'm going to go to B. No, it's unnecessary to ask how much the client earns, as this may seem too intrusive to the client. Well, if I don't ask that question, I won't know, and I won't know what's available to her based on what she has. So understanding what she has, what her income is like, gives me an idea of a starting point of where I can go to start gathering resources for her or making referrals to her for resources. So B for me, that's not working. C. Yes, because a client's economic status and ability to save money can tell the social worker a lot about the client's judgment and impulse control. Well, reading that, it kind of threw me a little bit, because why are we talking about the client's judgment or impulse control, and what do saving money have to do with that? Nowhere in this segment does it talk about her being impulsive or having poor decision making skills or anything. So that's a distractor for me. It's just kind of like threw me off a little bit. And I'm not going to go for that one. So I'm going to cross C out. And then D, yes, because a client's ability to recall annual income can help establish whether the client has any memory or recall problems. And the same thing, we're not dealing with a situation, or the vignette is not talking about anything with client having difficulties with remembering information or struggling with anything in that respect. So we don't want to just jump and leap and make these big assumptions about what's going on with this client. It did let us know that she is working part-time, so we know that. It did let us know that she's living with her parents off and on. That was a big one for me. And it did let us know that she's young. So she's young, she has a part-time job, and she's living with her parents off and on. You know, let's see what kind of resources are out there. Let's try to help her get connected with some things that could benefit her. And how will we know what we could adequately refer her to unless we understood her income bracket? Okay. Now, for example, you know, WIC. Do she need WIC? She won't be able to qualify for WIC if her income is $2 above the poverty level. She won't be able to qualify for food stamps if she's making a little bit too much. She won't be able to qualify for housing, Section 8, HUD, um, um, HUD, yeah, Section 8 vouchers if she's making a little bit too much. But if her income is below, the expected amount for a parent and a child, and we know that and we understand that, then we can make referrals for her for those programs, transportation programs, or child care programs and different things like that. But it's all contingent upon how much she makes and if she qualifies for those services. So asking that information is very important. It's always necessary to gather as much information as you can about your client in your beginning phase of treatment, especially when you're going through that assessment phase. That assessment phase suggests that you already met the client that came in, and now you're really assessing her situation or his situation and their overall need. So it's okay to ask those type of questions because you really need to know what you need to know about the client so that you can make the best possible referral that can meet the client's needs. So I'm going with choice A, and choice A is the best answer in this particular situation. I did include the rationale to the answer in the comment section in the previous post that I made this morning, but I also have it posted here as well for those who didn't catch that question earlier and the rationale. But here you have it. A is the best choice of all the four choices, and here's the reason why. Given the link between poverty and mental illness, it is important for social workers to be aware of a client's struggle with poverty. It is also important to be aware of a client's income, as most benefits are dependent on income. Social workers need to be aware of the impact that poverty tends to have on clients. It is important to ask about a client's income in order to determine if the client may be eligible for benefits, or to see if the client's lack of income is a stressor that may impact the mental health. It is important to ask about income to determine if poverty is a factor in the overall situation. A client's ability to save money may not have anything to do with their judgment or impulse control. A client who is not able to recall their income may not necessarily have problems with memory. They may simply not be in charge of the finances in their home. I hope this was helpful. I know it probably was a little bit long. However, I like to take my time when I'm going through questions and reading questions, only because